Eoch Tanuyap, Quiget Yuans Quinsna. Hi everybody, my name is Quiget Yuans. I'm a member of the Squamish Nation and the Yagalanas clan of the Haida Nation. You're listening to Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. We live, work, play, and broadcast from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations.
Beautiful people, it's yet another hot summer day in Vancouver and I love it. I've gotten used to the weather patterns now. Rain or shine, bring it on climate change. Had a great weekend, was out with the kids, took them out to playland. Wow, haven't seen that much of a congregation in a while. Looks like things are quite opening up for us here. We're told that the cumulative percent of the population who have received at least one COVID-19 vaccine is 70%. On the other side of the line is John Su, social entrepreneur. Together with Adrian Beaverbones, John is the founder of Indigenous Innovations, helping First Nation communities maximize their health benefits. Hey John, how you doing?
I'm good, Steve. How are you doing this morning?
Good, feeling good. Yeah, John, you wanna tell us what Indigenous Innovations is?
Yeah, so we are a First Nations owned company, and what we do is we help First Nations people in Vancouver navigate the healthcare system. And we basically help them do all the paperwork, the technology challenges, the communication. We educate them on their benefits, and we just help them get things done in a simple and easy manner. And that's the most important thing, is we make it so simple and easy that all our clients have to do is just show up.
So could you just start by telling us how it is that you execute what it is that you do, how you help out our amazing First Nation brothers and sisters?
So one thing myself and Adrian realized from the beginning is there is a lack of trust in the medical system from the First Nations people. So when you think about anyone using anything, if you don't trust in the system, you will not use it. And we knew that trust was the number one thing that we had to do to rebuild the medical system for usage for First Nations. So what I did when I was in Vancouver is I just put myself out in the community. I went to the downtown East Side Market, put up a sign saying we help First Nations, and I was just there consistently every week so that people can see my face. And it's just one of those things, when someone sees the same face over an extended period of time, there's a sense of trust built, right? Like, he's not going to trust me with his deep dark secrets, but he's going to realize that, hey, who's this new person that's part of the community? He's not just somebody coming in and out, like a transient or maybe undercover cop, who knows? He's somebody there saying he's helping First Nations. And that was kind of the turning point of when people start to talk to us to find out, oh, what is it that you do? It says health benefits. It says health benefits.
Yeah, I'd really like to get deeper into that because last week when I met you for the first time, I came into your office and sat down. You gave me a cold glass of water, and before I noticed, someone knocks at the window like, hey, hello, someone's getting an overdose, and you reached out to a cupboard and grabbed 2 containers and gave this guy, asked him to call 911, and could you just explain that? That's what I saw, and that's the energy that I got. Are you saving lives? What's going on?
Yeah, we are indirectly saving lives. So that is our First Nations Nasal Narcan program. So this is a First Nations program, and to my knowledge, we're the only ones doing this at this level.
Oh, great.
But we are providing and saving lives in the downtown East Side. So a lot of our clients, because they are status Indigenous, they get nasal Narcan for free, paid by their health benefits. So what they do is they get the nasal Narcan, they give it to us, and we provide it to the community. And we took the time to market and promote that if you need nasal Narcan, we have a First Nations nasal Narcan program that can provide it to you. So That's the first time, well, not the first time, second time in 2 years, somebody's knocked on our window knowing that we provide nasal Narcan to the downtown East Side community. So someone was overdosing, boom, they knocked on the window, and we just made accessibility for that life-saving medication accessible. And then we gave it to them, no questions asked, and then they went and saved somebody's life. Because nasal Narcan is something, you only use it when someone's overdosing and is about to die. So you don't use it to get high, because it actually does the exact opposite. It gets rid of your high. So
it's really something. I mean, I really want to know more about the nasal Narcan. But first, what is it that the nasal Narcan does? What is it for someone who doesn't understand what you're talking about?
So the nasal Narcan, what it does is it reverses the drug opiate effect. So when someone's overdosing, it's too much drugs and their system can't handle it. So what this does is it enters your body to reverse the effects of the drug so that your body can clean it out. Because otherwise, it's going to overload your system, and you're going to die.
I guess being called a nasal Narcan, there's only one way to ingest it, is through your nose, right?
Yeah. So the nasal Narcan, the reason people love to use it is because it's simple and easy to use. You just put it by someone's nose and you spray. Where the other option is you got to take a needle, suck the fluid out of a vial, and inject and stab somebody and inject them with it. So for a lot of people who are afraid of that, like myself, I'm afraid of needles. I could still do it, but I would rather just spray it under their nose. One big thing that a lot of, I guess, drug users from the community, they don't like nasal Narcan because it's a concentrated dosage of Narcan, and what happens is they have a heavy withdrawal reaction after. So the funny thing is when you save somebody's life with nasal Narcan, they'll actually come back to life, and they might actually be mad at you because you killed their high.
Does that happen?
Oh yeah, it happens all the time. You'll see somebody bounce back and they'll be like, "What the fuck, man?" And you're just like in shock. You're like, "I just saved your life, bro." And I don't give a fuck what you just did, man. You killed my high. You should have just left me. And you're like, "Okay, have a great day," and then you just walk away. It's just one of those things where you understand where they're coming from, because absolutely, we killed their high, but we also saved their life. But at that moment in time, they're coming out of like probably the best high or the peak of their high, and then we brought them back. So it's like, bringing somebody out of the best dream they've ever had. I'd be pissed off too.
Wow. Jeez. I mean, one thing I love about this show is I learned so much, things that I never knew of, never came into my radar, and this is so new and so interesting to me. It's one thing that I think everyone should know about, nasal Narcans and where you can find them, because I could be walking down the street and I find someone ODing, and what do I do, So the nasal Narcan, where do you get them? Because what you're doing, it's a business, right?
Yeah, so we are a for-profit business, and we're clear with our clients that, hey, we are not a social society, we're not a government business. We are a for-profit business. And who
pays you? Who are your clients?
So our clients are the places that we refer, the clients to go to. So we get paid marketing and promotion fees. We just say, hey, this is a First Nations focused business. This business knows how to take care of First Nations, or is familiar with the First Nations benefits. And the crown jewel of having that relationship with these business owners is that I can ensure quality control on the service delivery. A major issue in the medical system is proper and professional service. So when you have a relationship with a medical provider, say you are the optometrist. If I know you, Steve, and something went wrong with a client, I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Steve, what went wrong? And then I can hear your side of the story, I can hear the client's side of the story, and clear things up. If you as a medical provider ever disrespected our clients and you continue to do that, then I would just end the relationship with you. Even though you're the one who writes my paycheck, my loyalty lies with the client, because they trust in us that we are going to refer them to places that they will be taken care of and have an extra layer of compassion. And that's a big thing, is when I meet with people, I don't just work with anyone. I don't care what size check you're going to write me. Number one thing for me is I need to know that you actually care about wanting to help people, wanting to help First Nations. If if during our interview all you talk about is money, I will not work with you. Doesn't matter how much money you can make. Even though I'm a business, our business is built on trust and delivering consistent and quality service. And I will not sacrifice that for anything. And I know a lot of people say that, but in the downtown Eastside community, it is even more critical because that is a very emotional, sensitive area, and it took me a long time to build that trust. And yeah, I'm not gonna wreck it just because somebody's decided to write me a huge check. So in having that relationship where we refer and where we get paid, some people pay us, some people don't. So I'm gonna be upfront about it. Not everyone pays us. Some people do, some people don't. Just kind of the people we work with. So we help with 4 things. We help with feet, teeth, eyes, and medicine. So dentists, doctors, pharmacists, optometrists, right? Those are the 4 things that we do. We don't do everything, but we have a general basis. So they pay us marketing fees to promote and endorse them. And we have a great relationship with them. And anytime something's went wrong, we can pick up the phone and say, hey, what went on? Clear things up. Then the client is taken care of, or at least has, an explanation of what had happened. Sometimes the client will say, straight up, fuck you, they're having a bad day, they lose their shit, where it's obvious what happened. And I'll say to the client, hey, these people are working with us to make sure that, you guys get proper and professional service. It's not okay to tell somebody to go fuck off to their face or call them a ripoff or whatever. So, so I'm not always on the client side. When the client is acting inappropriately, I'll say, hey, that's not acceptable. Please don't do that. But you can go back again, tomorrow to get your glasses. And that's the one big thing is the people that we work with will always give that second chance. They'll understand, hey, someone has a bad day, come back tomorrow. And we're the same way. Someone can tell me, go fuck yourself, you're ripping me off, whatever. But then I'll ask them to leave the office because that's absolutely not acceptable. But they'll be welcome back the next day as long as they don't act like that, right? So I think.
Oh, wow. And the location you're in, is that the first location you've been on? And tell us about this location, how you got there.
Yeah, so the funny thing is we are located inside Brandy's Bar. So we're located at
Brandy's Bar?
Yeah, 122 East Hastings. You have to take the same entrance to go into the bar, but we're at the front office to the left, so you'll see a white door. And a lot of people are kind of thrown off by that. A lot of them. A lot of our clients
I went straight through to the back.
Yeah, you went straight to the bar, and I always tell the clients, it's always the same joke. It's if you've hit the bar, you've gone too far. Head on back.
That's a nice one.
Yeah, because literally, right, we're just at the front there. We've had a few people that were not okay with it, because of past trauma, which we understand. Yeah. So we try to work with them and work with them over the phone. For other clients, they're cool with it. They'll actually just do it through that window. Remember that window you were knocking on? It's like drive through medical service. They just do it from the window.
John, it's amazing. Once you're in there, you really get the vibe. The energy is amazing. White walls are white with all the merchandise on the walls.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's a you go in that place, the energy changes. It's like you're not in downtown Eastside anymore. Right? Good vibe. We've got lots of indigenous art on the walls. That's one thing we're big on is creating an indigenous friendly, indigenous, inspiring, indigenous, promoting environment. We want people to come in and feel comfortable. And that's the number one thing is, like, for example, we help people with medical stuff, but we have a really human side to how we deal with things. Some clients will come in, they haven't slept for days. The one medical stuff, but they're so tired that they're going to, literally fall asleep filling out the application. They'll sleep there for 4, 5, 6 hours. We'll just let them sleep there. We won't ask them to leave and say, like most businesses, they'll say, hey man, you gotta get out of here, right? This is a business. That's what most businesses will do. For us, we understand hey man, they've been sleeping for days. You know what? We'll just move. We'll just have our other clients come work on the other side of the table, but we won't ask them to leave. We'll just let them sleep. Especially during the winters when it's raining, people come in soaking wet. Sometimes we got socks and whatever extra stuff. We'll give it to them, just to kind of warm up. right? And nobody does that. Every other place treats them like an object, like a customer. Hey, get out, man. We got to do business. Where for us, it's like we understand. Hey, what's going on? Yeah, crash out. They wake up. The only time we ask them to leave is when it's closing time, right? If they've been sleeping for 6 hours, then we got to be reasonable for ourselves, and we'll say, hey, yeah, you've been sleeping for 6 hours. Here's a bottle of water. We're closing up, and they'll just be like, hey, thanks, man. It's just that when you're really tired and you just need to take a nap.
Yeah.
Just imagine that, but times 20, right? For them, that nap where they're actually safe, they don't have to worry about their stuff getting stolen. They can just rest. It's a big deal, and I know how like when I'm tired, it makes me go crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You must be quite committed in order for you to do this. I mean, out of all the businesses to do out there, like this is a social enterprise. It's not just an enterprise unto itself, but it's a social enterprise doing something really cool. Now, the thing is, what inspired you to do this? And when did you actualize it and say, you know what, I am going to do it? Because you told me that you moved to Vancouver about 5 years ago?
Yeah, so we've been in Vancouver doing the First Nations business for healthcare for the last 2 years. When I moved back 5 years, I was actually a real estate agent. What initially brought me in was the business opportunity. When I realized, talking to my partner, he said, he told me my people don't know how to use the system, and to me, my mind was blown. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know how to use it? It's simple. Get a prescription and things are paid for. And he replied to me, yeah, you know that, I know that, but my people don't know that. And when that kind of dawned on me, it's like that light bulb moment. You're like, wow, there's a huge demand for that. So why not turn it into a business? So once I knew that there was a huge demand for healthcare, I thought they got to go somewhere to get their services, and it's probably a small business. And because I'm a realtor, I have enough life experience to know every small business's biggest daily challenge is to drive more sales. Yeah. And if I could help them do that with results, predictable and consistent results, then who the hell would say no? It's like, you want more business? Sure, you got to pay for it, but it's business you would have never got, and you do absolutely nothing except for what you're doing exactly now. You're filling all of your dead spots with actual income. You want to do that, right? And not everybody wants to do that, because there's some businesses out there, they're just too busy, right? Or there's some businesses straight up, they'll just say, yeah, I don't want to deal with Indigenous First Nations. And hey, you know what? It's a free country. You can do whatever you want, right? That's discrimination, everything else. But hey, that's the way the world works. I'm not going to sit there and focus on that. I'm going to find somebody who is committed to making a difference, because Yeah,
exactly. But times are changing. Those kind of businesses are old school and they're going out, man. Times are changing.
100%. They are going out, and it's one of those things where somebody's still racist. You're like, really? What are you, a caveman?
Yeah.
It's like,
exactly.
How are you still racist? But
so, in a bit, we're gonna get into the vision. I'd like you to give us your vision of the organization, where it is that you want it to go. But for now, we're gonna break for some music. Let's have some good ones.
Is that it right there? She walks in, I begin to find that feeling again, yeah. Slowly I lose my mind, and it's alright, and I don't mind, 'cause she's so fine I'd be lying. Well, if I said her smile didn't take me away, and I could see the night turn into day. Well, I can't believe my eyes. She just caught me by surprise. Well, I just don't know if I'm losing my mind, but I'll try. Yes, I'll try. to make a move, yeah. And I stutter when I'm next to you, baby. Maybe it's my mind confused, oh, 'cause I never had a heart to lose before. And I'm winning, 'cause I'm giving every part of me, yeah. A beginning never knows where it ends till it's over. And then you walk in, I can't believe my eyes. She just opened by surprise. I just don't know if I'm losing my mind, losing my mind. Can't believe my eyes. She just I've been by surprise. Just don't know if I'm losing my mind. I'll try. I'll try. I don't know where you plan to go, baby. So if you won't go away from me, baby, I promise that I won't even make you stay. Yeah. And I know I'm not that kind, yeah. Chase every woman that I think is fine. And my mama taught me right, yeah. But you got me losing my mind. My eyes, she just caught me by surprise. Caught me by surprise. I just don't know. I just don't know. Losing my mind, but I'll try. Yes, I'll try. I can't believe my eyes. She just caught me by surprise. I just don't know if I'm losing my mind, but I'll try. Yes, I'll try. But I can't believe my eyes. She just caught me by surprise. I just don't know if I'm losing my mind, but I'll try. Yes, I'll try.
Okay, we're back with John from Indigenous Innovations. Hey, John. Yeah, please tell us about your vision of the organization and where you see it in the future.
So our vision, myself and Adrian, is we want to take Indigenous innovations right across Canada to every single major city that has a large First Nations population. Because if you look at what we do, it's a really simple model. It's just providing quality information and finding quality people to refer our clients to. And across Canada, this issue with First Nations and lack of trust in the medical system, it's throughout the entire system, throughout the entire country. So in terms of demand, we're probably not even going to satisfy it in my lifetime. I'll be dead before the final vision comes through. But that's what we want to do, is we want to basically build mini medical systems within every major city that has a large First Nations population. But even further, what we would like to do is all of these medical providers, they are not Indigenous. So one thing that dawned on me is, why not? Why is all these medical providers not Indigenous? So as our company grows, what we're going to start doing is finding committed individuals who want to help their own people and have them become the doctors, have them become the optometrists, have them become the medical providers. Because there's a ton of money going from the government to the medical system to non-Indigenous people. And as you know, as an immigrant to this country, you know, I can tell from your accent, you are an immigrant, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you know that any culture that immigrates to Canada, their entire culture rises based on their economic development. that it's rooted to that. If your culture cannot develop economically, it kind of just stays in the low income welfare side that the government provides. But as the cultures, Chinese people came to Canada, what did they do? Start working together, building up money, saving up money, buying up businesses, providing services to the rest of Canada. And that's what I want to do with the First Nations, is find committed individuals to say, instead of trying to fight the system of the medical system and having that whole system change, why not we build our own system and then we become the people in control of things? Because you've heard the saying, expecting someone to change is kind of like insanity, right? It's like, hey, you change. You cannot make anybody change. They have to change. So if we want a better medical system, why don't we become the medical system? Bring in our people.
Sounds very political, bro.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And when you have your own people, right, you can take care of your own people. But when you have somebody else taking care of your people, and then there's the political and bureaucratic things of the associations and all this hiding behind privacy laws and racism's obvious. You expect others to treat your people better, and they should, but the real world doesn't work like that. The real world isn't all sunshine and rainbows, right? So why not build the best medical system with your own people, your own contacts, to take care of that problem that is created by I guess other people.
And who are you looking at as future partners, and what kind of call would you make to future partner or collaborator that can make you actualize your vision?
So here's the thing: it's probably going to be the next generation of First Nations, the younger ones that are more in tune to the educational system. First Nations have their post-secondary paid for, so why not use the government's money, pay for your education? You can build a business for yourself and help your people and become part of the solution, part of this huge Canadian movement to change how First Nations are treated in the healthcare system. And it's going to be a true Canadian collaboration of people helping people, because it's going to be them going to school to get the education to become that professional. It's going to be our current medical providers mentoring them, showing them the business, right? And then ourselves and everyone working together, collaborating to build the business, to build Indigenous ownership into the medical system, to financially empower, First Nations people, and to hire First Nations people, and to create that whole movement. Like if you look at, New Zealand and Australia, I've talked to a few people down there. Probably in the next year or so, my team's gonna fly down there to see how they've set up, and they are Indigenous. They, talking to the Indigenous in New Zealand and Australia, they said they're about 50 years ahead of the Indigenous in Canada. So it's like going into the future, saying, "Hey, what have you guys done? What issues have you encountered?" It's not going to be exactly the same, but very similar. Very similar, right?
I really like what you're talking about and where you're going.
Yeah,
it's really something.
You just like jump into the future
100%.
because they're ahead of us, and then take their ideas, what worked, what didn't work, and bring it here.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of the whole bigger vision.
That is really something, man. So you must have gone through a lot of challenges. You got a lot of challenges coming your way, though. But I'm sure you've gone through some that you'd like to share with us. Or has it been a smooth ride through and through?
I wouldn't say it's smooth. There's always challenges, but has there been something that was absolutely crippling? Not yet. I wouldn't say not, because we're also still a startup technically. We've only been in the business 2 years. I used to be a realtor, knew nothing about this. So what we're doing now, I just really made up. I'm like, hey, let's try this. Nobody ever done it. Hey, let's try this. A lot of people are like, oh my God, that idea's awesome. How did you figure it out? I'm like, I just made it up, man. I'm still actually making it up, because it's one of those things, like when you realize when you're self-employed, you learn on the spot. You're always constantly learning on the spot, because there's always new stuff happening. And that's why, to be a true entrepreneur, your ability to adapt and pivot is absolutely critical. And that's the reason most people can't. You know what I mean? Change for a lot of people is stress. For us, change, rejection, hearing no, that's my daily vitamin. I'm hearing no 5-7 times, a day. I talk to some of my friends, like, how do you do it? I'm like, well, I don't know. You just gotta get used to it, right? Where I hear them talking, oh man, somebody said no. I'm like, how often do you hear that? Oh, once a month. I look at them, I laugh. I'm like, once a month? Jesus. It's like, it's like I want to slap across the face, like, man up, man.
Do you have people? Seems like you have a lot of people in your life who've made a big impact. Are there some who'd like to highlight right now?
You know what? The weird thing is, I was always a lone ranger most of my life. If I had to say there is two people that I really researched and studied that had a major impact on how I do things, it would probably be two speakers. One's really well known, one's not so well known, but he should be. So the one fellow that has guided a lot of how I think is John DeMartini. So he's like a philosopher, kind of self-help guru. This guy, from what I've seen, and I've seen, lots of stuff from Tony Robbins. Like, I've been in the self-help world for about 17 years. I've seen a lot of people, but this one fellow, John DeMartini, he knows the most about everything. Like, when you hear him talk, this guy's like one neurotic. This guy knows so much information, and he dives deep into them. So he's an expert in many subject areas, where you just have other speakers who are just kind of an expert in one area, mental, business, or financial. This guy's like an expert and master researcher in a lot of areas.
And he's also big on healthcare professionals, right? He does motivational talks to healthcare professionals, corporate executives.
Yeah, exactly. He's used to be a chiropractor, and I've taken a lot of his courses, probably most of his courses, in my opinion. From what I've seen, I'm probably one of his top students. But this guy, the amount of knowledge he has, it just blew my mind. And I'm not just putting him up on a pedestal because I'm a student of his. No, this guy's legit. Like, I would line him up against any speaker. I'm like, you want to talk, even in your own field of expertise? I will bet money on this guy. The only guy I know who would probably beat him in one realm, which is the mental realm, psychology and stuff, is the other guy I follow from St. Albert, Alberta, or he's in Edmonton now. His name is Blair Dunkley. His company's Rewiring the Mind. But this guy, as wide as John DeMartini goes, for the amount of subjects he knows, this one fellow, Blair Dunkley, goes deep. Like, he's coined as the mental, the Jedi mind trick guy. And to show you how, the first time I saw this guy, he would talk to me for 10 to 30 seconds, and then he would tell me stuff about myself, my life, and what's happening in my life from that 10 to 30 seconds. And his question is, hey, tell me about yourself. And from that 10 to 30 seconds snippet of what I say, he'll tell me deep interpersonal stuff about my life. I'm like, how the hell it's like, holy, how the hell did you know that? So he teaches a very universal skill set, and yeah, it just blew my mind, the flexibility and the adaptability of those skill sets that he teaches. Because that is what really helped me learn John DeMartini stuff. Because John, like spirituality stuff, it's kind of like a little far out. You know what I mean? Some of those concepts are a little far out. And with Blair's stuff, it just gives you the skills on how to ask yourself questions, how to self-counsel, how to manage others, just with talking. And it makes learning so much easier. And those are the two guys that really are the core of how I function. Not so much who I am, but how I function.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so do you have, can you make a call to anyone who's listening right now and would need your assistance? Like, if you're only located in the downtown east side, is there anyone else who does the kind of service that you do? Or you can mail you can mail your life-saving equipment somewhere else?
So that's kind of the thing is, what we do is purely informational based. So we can help anyone who is utilizing the First Nations programs throughout Canada. The only reason that we focus in Vancouver, or you would want to do it in Vancouver, is if you want a service provider that we know to ensure quality control. But otherwise, anyone who's First Nations throughout Canada can call us and say, hey, I have a question about this. And it's just one set of benefits. Well, in BC, it's a little bit different. But we can pretty much help anybody. And we can tell them, here's what you do. Because, you know, we know the game of the medical system. We know how to play within it. We know the loopholes of it. Just because we talk, we talk to our medical providers. There's the, you know, people out of school, they know how to do things as the system teaches you. But, you know, as life progresses, you realize the system, if anyone did it exactly as the system said to do it, they go out of business. It doesn't work. There's a disconnect. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, you know.
I mean,
oh, go ahead, Steve.
You see, I'm not a professional in this topic of healthcare, neither in the drug use and overuse of it. But I just want to ask questions that maybe that for me to learn a bit more, you know, and I don't want to come out as insensitive. So if I'm a user, or I have a user in my home, do you advise me to have the nasal? What do you call it again? I'm sorry.
Nasal. It's called Nasal Narcan or Nasal Naloxone.
Exactly. Do you recommend that I have a Nasal Narcan at home with me?
Yeah.
In case of emergency.
Absolutely. I believe anyone who's in a high drug use area or community have Nasal Naloxone on them, or at least a needle, whatever you prefer. The easiest to use is the Nasal Naloxone, but it's also more difficult to get because it's $180 a box, and only First Nations gets it for free. Where the needle naloxone is for free, anyone can get it, right? But a lot of people are scared of needles, don't want to carry it out. There's a variety of other reasons.
Do you see a time whereby you'll be going around the city or the country just offering people nasal Narcans?
Yeah, so this is one little side note that that probably will never happen from us, because the government, you know how the government, they want to find reasons to not pay things out. And if they ever heard that we were handing out nasal naloxone irresponsibly like that, they will cut the program off and they'll justify it. They're saying these guys are abusing the system. So we actually use it very responsibly. Our clients direct us so that no matter what the government says, they cannot say that we're giving it out, frivolously or irresponsibly, because that's just the way the world works. You know, the government will never admit that, but that's true. They find areas of abuse so that they can take it away. And if you actually did the whole evaluation of how the First Nations benefits are dwindling from what they used to be, that's usually how it happens. Well, any government institution, any insurance company, any areas of abuse, they just find ways to reduce what they have to provide. But you'll notice, that their fees probably will increase.
They know my story. From old dogs to you, I be hustle to work. Me and City. From old dogs to you, we been hustle to work. My people dead, my people suffer. Them they pray for blessing. My people dead, them they pray for blessing, for better living. Kilo dale, aye ole to aye oni double, adura no le show, call on daddy, adura go, tissue anybody, I forward boja. I am feeling good tonight. This thing got me thanking God for life. Oh, I can't explain. say, near do well, they know my story. From old dogs to you, I be hustle to walk. Say, near do well, oh, me and see. From old dogs to you, we been hustle to walk. See, I kill a fool, mommy, yo. What you do, my Lord, shadow. What I am, you want you was hard. What you do, my own whatever. I kill a fool, mommy, yo. What you do, my Lord, shadow. What I am, you want you was hard. When you was hard. I am feeling good tonight. This thing got me thinking of life. Oh, I can't explain. I can't explain. Yeah. I am feeling good tonight. This thing got me thinking of life. I can't explain. I can't explain. Yeah.
I like how you bring it out and tell us something really new. And it's all about learning and knowing more about people.
Yeah, it's because like one thing we're realizing now is we're only 2 years deep, but once we start going across Canada and we start mobilizing thousands of First Nations to finally use their health benefits, then the government's going to be like, whoa, they're starting, First Nations are starting to really use it. Now there's a huge bill popping up that didn't exist. That's kind of when we got to start playing a different game of hiring lobbyists to start fighting against the government to trying to reduce their rights. Because if you look at it, who's the master of lobbyists? The pharmaceutical companies who are, you know what I mean? Pharmaceutical companies hiring lobbyists to create laws for them to make money or to at least prevent the government from taking it away. So then boom, they hire all these lobbyists because they're making crazy cash. It's just a write-off. So why wouldn't you spend money to make more money? So that's kind of, I think, few years down, we're going to start to have to hire lobbyists because we're going to start, mobilizing thousands of First Nations to start using their health benefits. And then the government's going to be like, oh, we have to do budget cuts. Sorry, we already hired these lobbyists to fight against that. And then, of course, because we are a business, not a government association, we can start hiring marketing companies to, to play that whole propaganda game that all these pharmacies play and all these politicians play, right? Because it's one of those things. They don't teach you that in the U of A business because,
sure they don't.
But that's the real life. If I'm not sitting here trying to sound like a conspiracy theory. Anyone who has any life experience in business, there's the game of what you want people to see, and then there's a lot of background, closed door stuff. And if you don't play the closed door game, you're gonna lose. It's like the police brutality, If a lot of people complain about police brutality, but if you were to ask a cop the reason they do that stuff, there's lots of stuff that they do behind the scenes to bust the real bad guys, because the real bad guys are the ones abusing all of these rules because they got money to hire these lawyers to help them get off charges. Because you hear this whole, guilty until proven. You can get away with a lot of stuff in life if you have enough money and the right connections. Because if you look at good example, in Calgary, this is one I remember. The police chief's stepson went into a house party and stabbed up and killed a few people. I don't even think he went, and I think I'm pretty sure he didn't even go to jail. And you got to ask yourself, if that was not the police chief's stepson plus all the money and contacts, that dude would have went to jail for a long time. Because who the hell goes in the house and stab people and kill people, but they don't go to jail? That's impossible. And that's a reality of life. And that's because kind of the whole thing is, lobbying, fighting against the government, all this other stuff. That's part of life. If you don't want to play that game, you will get crushed because that's part of the game. And you can't just play one game and not play the other.
What you're saying is you should empower our people economically.
Oh yeah, you got to empower economically, but with education, but also politically, is have people people in the right places, right? Because you need to
That's really
kind of
cool.
know the inside scoop of, hey, how do you get this done? So I gotta meet people to say, this is how you play the political game. This is who you gotta meet with, build relationships with, make campaign donations, because I'm a good person, good company, to politicians, right? It's a whole game, and you just got to play that bigger game, because you can cry about it, or you can just play it at a better level. And I think, in my opinion, the biggest laugh that indigenous can do against the colonizing government, or this whole thing, is instead of expecting everyone to decolonize, if you can play that game better than the colonizer, that's the final laugh. That's like the from Doom. It's just kind of like when a white guy is better kung fu than the Asian guy. You're like, oh, burn! They beat you at your own game. You know what I mean? That's like that's the final laugh. It's just like bam, bam, slap, slap, right? And I think that's the way to win is beat them at their own game. Right now, indigenous pride is high, government trust is low, Canadian support is at an all-time high. This is the time when people come together to support each other instead of relying on the government. Because you look at relying on the government, that's just a bad idea.
Are you gonna finalize with some words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom. I don't know. I'm a pretty simple guy. Kind of my jam right now is supporting First Nations. This is the time that we as a country, as fellow Canadians, help and support the Indigenous people of Canada. This is the time where we come together as people helping people, because that's the only time anything ever happened, is when people help people. And this is their time to acknowledge what has happened, to work and collaborate with them, to help restore what and I'm going to be straight up, what the Canadian government has done an excellent job at hiding. That is the biggest, if you want to compare something, Germany, when they killed all the Jewish people, they admitted it. Yeah, we did it. And it's widely known the intent and the seriousness of what the Germans have done to the Jewish people. But if you go across internationally and you talk about it, even in our own country, we didn't know how bad it really was until it starts coming out now. And that just shows you how effectively the Canadian government has basically rewritten history and tried to hide it. But when you have 215 bodies, thousands of children's bodies found on these certain sites, everything starts to come out. And now with the internet, the government can't control the information anymore. So that's their biggest challenge. And now it's coming out, and it's a shitstorm that, I don't even know how the government's going to deal with it. They can't hide it anymore. So they're...
No, they really can't.
And if you look at it, how many months have passed now? And has there been a unified government acknowledgement of First Nations? Absolutely not. They're like, there's kind of the odd person breaking off, but there hasn't been just that acknowledgement of what the Canadian government did.
I really like the stuff you're giving us. It's a really tough. What a way to start the day.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's really important. This is something that I'm passionate about, because I was always the guy who fought for what's right, stood up against the bigger person. And this is straight up, kind of what the Canadian government has done to the Indigenous. Straight abuse of power, money, and position.
Okay, John, I think we're going to finish up this. And I'd like to tell everyone that I was talking to John Su, who, together with Adrian Beaverbones, are the founders of Indigenous Innovations. And their website is firstnationshealth.wordpress.com, which is really something cool that I urge anyone else to go in there. The website is firstnationshealth.wordpress.com. Okay, John, thank you very much, and I hope to see you again.
Thanks so much, Steve. I really appreciate the opportunity to share a message of what we're doing and the reason why we're doing it. And yeah, I think it's really important.
Hell yeah, that's what it's saying. Take care, man.
Take care.